Hello everyone, in the previous video we have written the code to attach to the already running process. This is where exactly we stop. Now we are going to continue this debug event. So let's write another helper function, continue debug event, and it will take a continue status. So we need to send this to the process, so the OS decides whether the exception has been handled or not, whether to continue or not. So dbg status, it's also better to take the process ID and thread ID as well, because in future we want to continue the debug event occurred in a specific thread than the first thread the debug active process is going to attach. So we can say pid u32 and tid u32. So pid process ID, tid thread ID. So unsafe continue debug event. So if the result is 0, then this function has been failed. We are going to return a result of boolean and string. Okay, of true. So true means the continue debug event has been successfully continued. Now what we are going to do is we are going to call the function at this point. So dbg dot continue debug event, because at this point the debugger has attached to the debug process. Now we are going to continue this debug and we need to access the process ID and thread ID from the debugger object. So there is no way you can access this. You need to make this as public, but this is not advisable in the production code or any application you are developing. So what we can do is we can write a functions process ID just like we have seen in the previous video, in the starting video. So we can copy this function get thread ID self dot thread ID. You can see the AI is filling this up for me. So and dbg dot get process ID and dbg dot get thread ID, and the status is dbg continue. So we can try to put a breakpoint here and run this. So you cannot click on this notepad. So we are debugging the debugger. Nice. So now as soon as I run the step over, so when I run the step over, the thread will continue. So the step over, I should see the notepad. Okay, it's not working. So let's stop this. So we have continued, but I think we need to detach the debugger. Okay, so I think the next debugger event has been generated, so that's why we are not interacting with the notepad, because so at this point the debug event has been continued, but another debug event has been generated. So this is where we write a debugging loop. So we need to go in an infinite loop, enter debugging loop. So here we can say loop, and here we can self dot wait for debug event. So let's print the same exact information we are printing here. And then we are continuing, self dot continue, self So I think we are good to go. So once we are continuing here, we can say debug dot enter debugging loop. So in this infinite loop, we will be waiting for the debug event and we will be continuing that. So let's run this. So now we got an error, wait for debug event failed 121. Sorry, not this thread ID, my bad. Debug event dot process ID and the debug event dot thread ID. So sorry, my bad. And now we can interact with the notepad. So we can see the debug event codes have been generated. We can also write a program to detach our debugger from the debuggy. So we can say debug active process stop. So let's write a function for that too. So instead of calling the debugging loop, we can say debug dot detach. Now the notepad has been running successfully. So even though our debugger has been exited, the notepad runs because we have been successfully detached. So we need to modify our debugging loop. So if the exception is the debug event is the exception, then we need to send debug exception not handled. Otherwise we need to send debug continue. So we'll be fixing this loop in the next video. So in this video we have seen how to continue the debug event and detach from the debuggy process.